What is up, Axie fam? Today we're going to talk about, should you breed high purity Axies or should you breed low purity ones? And I think this part of breeding is really what made me lose a lot of money at the start of my Axie Infinity career. And the reason for that is actually Whoop-de-doo. And I have no ill feeling towards him, okay? But I think what he failed to realize when he made his videos is that the state of Axie Infinity at that time is not going to be forever, and maybe that has something to do with him leaving the space entirely. But basically what I mean is that was the boom of Axie Infinity, and that's when I joined. So one of the biggest tips that he had in his videos is that he would only breed Axies that were 95% pure. He wouldn't breed the 100% ones, but he would have this like 95 to 99, and those were the ones he constantly bred. And I tried to do the same thing, and I got destroyed by the market. And I think I'm gonna try and explain to you why that happened. Well, first of all, let me do one thing here, and let me change this. So this is the first type of beast I ever bred in my Axie Infinity careers, the Nutcracker Imp Ronin Nutcracker. It was pretty popular. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just what it is. It's, you know, it's a mid-tier, okay-ish sort of Axie that is balanced but has a lot of flaws. And what I did at the beginning was just breeding these guys, but once I learned a little bit more about the game, I decided that I wanted to like get super pure Axies, not 100% ones, but pretty much copy what Whoop-de-doo was doing. And what happened is, with like 3 or maybe 4 rounds of breeding, I was getting these like beautiful, perfect Axies. And at the start, it actually felt like I was making a lot of money because I could sell, you know, the 94s and 93s for a pretty decent amount of profit. And like every time I was getting better Axies. So in my mind, I was definitely like walking towards a good path. But here's where the tricky part starts. Axie Infinity, I think, will always be a game of cycles unless the game becomes incredibly big, where even when you have a downturn, like the market's still gonna kind of self-regulate normally, or like the downturns are not gonna be as big compared to the tops. But yeah, basically that's what happened. People started to realize a patch was going to drop. People realized that I guess like a lot of people realized that these Axies are not that good, and you had like this, I don't know, mountain of people that were doing the same thing, kind of like jerking off to each other, all of them saying, okay, our Axies are worth a lot. So you could see like the Axies I was breeding, the 95% ones with this build, they could go for like 0.7, 0.8 Ethereum, and in my mind, I was like tripling my investment. And I started seeing people, like, I remember perfectly, I was just using the marketplace, I was using my bot, and out of nowhere, I found like a very pure Axie, just like the ones I was breeding, but it was selling for like 0.29, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is awesome. I'm gonna buy this Axie right now, and I'm just gonna add it to the farm, and I'm just gonna keep breeding. What a dum-dum. But what I realized is that quickly everyone started like selling these sorts of Axies for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, to a point where you could still see Axies that look just like mine selling for 0.9 Ethereum, and like if I wanted to actually sell mine, it would have to go for like 0.25, maybe 0.3, and even those were kind of hard to sell. And this is an effect that I realize happens constantly. So let me show it to you guys. So I was looking at plants, all right? I was looking for the serious leaf bug pumpkin yam plant. And to answer the question, you know, is it always better to improve your farm to the utmost limit, or maybe that's not really the best way to go? And here's what I found, okay? So this is pretty much every Axie with this build, but sorted by perfect genes. So you can see that all of them here have perfect genes, which means they're all, they all have all of those kills in DR1 or 2. And this is exactly the sort of phenomenon I was talking about. You have a 0.8 plant here, whereas you have a 0.25 plant. This is a huge red flag, because all of these Axies, they are pretty much the same. Maybe like one of these guys, they might have a couple of impurities here and there, but at the end of the day, you can see that there's like 83% purity Axies here, Whereas like this one is 69, so this one has worse purity, which means he probably has like some weird parts in the eyes and the ears, and yet he's still being sold by this price. So what this, like in a regulated market or in a market that was working well, what happens is like you have a baseline, you have a floor price of Axies, and when someone lists something for a cheap price, usually if everything is working fine, that thing is going to be bought immediately or really fast. For a gradient of price of Axies this big, there's definitely something wrong going on. And I mean, I'm not saying this to scare you guys. What I'm saying is the approach that I took, that was pretty much what Whoop-de-Doo was teaching at the time, is not ideal when the market is low. Because what happens is, yes, you're improving your Axies as your farm grows better, but at the same time, you rely on having people that are also interested in the same sort of endeavor that you're making to buy those high purity Axies. And I'll tell you, the liquidity of pure Axies is not great, especially when it is a build that is being famous for a long time, because everyone already has that Axie or already started breeding that Axie. So to answer the question that we started, is it better to breed Axies that are very pure or not? And well, first of all, this question has two answers, because it depends on whether you have a farm already running or if you're buying those Axies from the get-go. So let's say you're buying the Axies from the get-go. I actually ran two simulations here just so you guys can see. These two Axies, they are about 70% R1 and R2, which means that, you know, they have like a couple of impurities in the R1 and R2, but they're overall like decent. Basically, I chose I chose these two Axies here. So they have 75% purity of R1 R2, and they cost 0.09. And the thing about this is that the floor, we actually saw this, right? The floor of these Axies, so it's pumpkin, yam, cereal, there you go. The floor of these Axies is 0.08. What does that mean? It means that you're gonna buy these Axies for 0.09, you're gonna breed them a couple of times, and you will lose 0.01 Ethereum selling them. Whereas if you try to buy the most expensive ones to, you know, have super pure Axies, have a very low variance, always getting the same sort of Axie, yeah, you get that with this one, but you also get the fact that you're buying these guys at 0.25 and you're gonna have to sell them as 0.09 or maybe even lower. And that is the problem. Like, the difference between the parent price at zero breed and the parent price when you sell them is one of the biggest reasons you lose money when you breed. So be very mindful of that. And obviously this is just one example, but from someone that already bred other types of Axies and just tried to get this huge farm that was perfect, I'll tell you that if you're not going for something that is very new or very meta, you might run into trouble. Basically, the problem is, if the market is already flooding, is already full of the same Axies, the price of the floor is going to be super low, and you're just going to lose a lot of money, even if the zero breed version of what you're selling is perfect, because with a low market, they are either not going to sell or you're going to have to sell them at a cheaper price, and then you're not making as much as you think you're making. This is not to scare you guys. This is just to, because like, I talk to a lot of people because they come into my Discord server, they want to know about my bot, and they make questions about farms, and I think people are very focused in just copying these old style videos. And you know, maybe when a patch drops, if we see the market just I can actually show you guys. So when I joined Axie Infinity, the total volume of sales was around like 30 to 36 million USD dollars. So we were like at a third capacity of what we were. Until this number goes up a little bit, I don't think going for huge farms makes any sense, especially if you're trying to further improve those farms. I mean, if you already have them, then it's probably okay to keep breeding them because you don't pay for the parents. But be mindful of scaling too much, because you might just be forced to sell everything at a bad price, which was, you know, one thing that I did with my Axies. I personally really like the idea of finding unique Axies that you can breed one time, that you know in general you're gonna get like a lot of really good axies, and you just sell them, and then you find a different endeavor. It's obviously harder, it's more time consuming, you don't like leave all of those axies there. So maybe if you have a ton of money and you're gonna breed like 200 axies at a time, this could still be better just because you're not wasting time looking for those offers. But generally speaking, especially if you're a small breeder that is gonna lose a lot of money when you transfer your hard-earned profits to exchange that to SLP and AXS and go back into the marketplace, like that's gonna gut all of your profit margins that are already pretty bad. So hopefully this video helped you guys. And also, if you feel like you're losing a lot of money when you go from Ronin to MetaMask, it can be upwards of $150, $200 depending on how the gas fees are. We do have our own private Ronin DEX in our Discord server. We've had more than 100 transactions already, and you can save like 50% to 60% of your fees very easily. So yeah, maybe if that interests you, check our Discord server, read our pinned post, and you'll find everything that you need there. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this video was useful for you guys.